The pen is mightier than the sword. This line was written by Edward Bulwer-Lytton for one of his plays in 1839, and I'm sure we've all heard about it. It means that the written word has great potential to influence the way people think, their motivations, their beliefs, ideology, or even their decision making. And as a student of media and literature, I've seen how, yes, a single book, a news article, or a poem, or a line in a play can influence the public thought and mind. And even an individual who goes out and makes history. But what about ordinary people like us? Can we also harness the power of the written word? I think that yes, we can. You don't have to be a writer to use the power of words, but you can use it even in your ordinary life, your daily life, or the way that you influence other people. And I've seen that in my own life. When I was 6 years old, my mom gave me a journal and she taught me how to write the date and how to write about my day. And it was really fun to do for a little kid like me to write in this diary. And a few years later, our family moved from the Philippines to Nepal. I was 10 years old, and journaling played a part in how I coped with that new transition. And at first, I was really homesick. I missed my friends most of all. I was homeschooled, but I had a lot of classmates. So what I would do in Nepal was to take my journal and reread the entries that I wrote with my friends back home. And I would cheer up. And then I started writing about the new experiences we had, the new people and friends that we made, and the places and experiences with the culture, the new culture in Nepal. I wrote them and collected them and put them inside my journal, and it was really fun to appreciate these new things I was experiencing. And instead of complaining or focusing on how difficult life was there, because it was more difficult than in the Philippines, I started to appreciate and be grateful for those new experiences in Nepal. And then when I was 12 years old, my mom gave me another journal, and I decided that this time I'm going to keep a journal every year so that I can remember what I did and also to see how I've grown. And you can see the journals here from then, although the first three are missing because they're in the Philippines. But I can just pick any one of them and sort of time travel to when I was younger and see what I did, what I felt back then. And it's so fun to do that. And when I turned 12, it was also like entering into the threshold of teenhood, because I was gonna be 13 and then the rest of those teenage years. And every teenager grapples with two questions, like, who am I? And where do I belong? And I also struggled with those questions and struggled to find my identity. But because I had my journal, I was able to flesh out my answers to those questions. And I looked at the things that I was passionate about, my interests, my hobbies, and the things that I had so much joy doing. And I would write them all down and write down the reasons why I like them. And I was able to explore more of who I am. And I also was no stranger to the limitations or the challenges I was experiencing. And I had to write them down in my journal as well, because I was trying to figure out how to overcome them. And so I would write prayers to God, asking Him to help me find solutions, because I knew I couldn't do it alone. And the journal also became that friend or that buddy whom I could tell all my secrets to. And it helped me, I think, to become more secure as a person and more sure of who I am today. And then at the same time that I took journaling seriously, my mom opened a blog for me. At first it was for school, and then I opened a personal blog for myself, and I had fun writing because I would see them online. And at first I would write about memes or the stuff I was fangirling about. But when I realized that I had an audience this time online and across the world, people could read my stuff, I knew I had to make my messages clearer and understandable for them. And started wanting to share the experiences I had traveling around the world with my family, and I would put them there on my journal. And the most important blog that I wrote at that time was from 2015. There was a disaster that struck Nepal, and I was there. And it was a magnitude 7.8 earthquake, and comparing it with the 6.8 earthquake here in Armenia, it was we experienced shaking for almost 2 minutes, and it was really strong, like I was on a boat on a turbulent sea. And I knew after that I had to write a blog post about this, because I wanted to remember what happened at that time. And in the picture is a firehouse 3 minutes away from our house, and it was decimated. And I brought my camera there to take pictures, and I later put them in the blog I was writing. And I knew that this blog would also reach my friends back home, so they could know what was happening to us, and they would like be assured that we survived. And I even was thinking during the earthquake, man, is this the time I'm gonna die? But I survived, so I had to put that there. And it wasn't just my friends who read that blog. My mom shared it on Facebook, and a Canadian Filipino magazine saw it, and they asked me if they could publish it in their next issue. And I said, yeah, why not? And when I finally saw the article on their magazine, I was like, man, I'm only 14 and my writing has already done this. So my writing must have been something good. Like, I wasn't sure if it was good or not, but I was grateful that they had taken it. And also, I realized that writing and words do have power, even in the hands of a young, inexperienced, and ordinary person like me. So that motivated me to keep on writing and improve the way that I wrote. But I kept on writing about one thing I loved writing most about, which was my observations of ordinary people, because one of my hobbies is people watching, and sitting in a cafe or waiting for a ride outside, and I would observe what people were doing with their daily lives. And I love the simple things of life. And even if I traveled to 37 cities and 10 countries where the people look different, their religion is different, their language is different from mine, when I would observe them going about their daily lives, that showed me how human they were, and that was common with me. And so I would write those observations on my journal and sometimes post it on my blog. And I remember a conversation we had with a restaurant owner we ate at in Nepal. He was a Syrian, and he was a foreigner who had moved to Nepal, just like our family did. And we both found that we both loved living in Nepal. And that time there was a crisis, so it was difficult, but he said, we're only going to operate for a few more days, and then until the gas runs out, and we'll stop. And when I wrote that down, I somehow felt inspired, because there was this guy who was gonna persevere until there was nothing else he could do, and that inspired me to do the same for my own challenges. And I could remember that years onward, and even now I still remember that conversation because I wrote it down on my journal. And I wonder if you can remember what you were doing exactly on this day 5 or 6 years ago. And if you answered yes, then I'm sure you journal as well. But if you answered no, then I strongly encourage you to journal, because what I did with journaling, I remember the things I was inspired about, even if it wasn't a positive experience. And right now in the world, we're experiencing a difficult time. But when we switch our focus from the negative things to the positive, by listing down things we're grateful for, just like the time in Nepal when I was 10 years old and writing about the new things I was learning in my new life there. And when we switch our focus, we get to become more hopeful and about life, about a brighter future for us. and it makes us less stressed about life. And I remember during my first semester in college, I had stopped journaling seriously for a while because I was so busy. And there are a lot of dry spells in my life where I wouldn't write for weeks. But then I came across this video on YouTube by one of my favorite vloggers, and he was a guy. And on a side note, if you're listening here and you're thinking that, oh, diaries and journals are only for girls, well, that's not true. Besides that vlogger, I have a couple of guy friends who are real gentlemen, and they are profound people and caring people, and I'm sure journaling plays a part in that. And so, guys, I encourage you, just go journal. And coming back to what the YouTuber said, he advised us viewers to take a break from social media, take a break from the unrealistic expectations that you put on yourself by comparing yourself to other people, and then go journal. Write write about yourself, reflect on who you are, what you're experiencing, and then you'll be more honest with what you really want instead of comparing yourself with others, and you will be honest about where you need to improve and maybe find solutions to get there. So I followed his advice. I took a break from too much social media, and I would journal every night before I would sleep. And I was writing down what happened during the day so I wouldn't worry about it when I would lie down and sleep, because I overthink about that. So putting it down on paper helped those thoughts not to live in my mind anymore all the time, but to live on the paper. And that helped me to sleep easier or sleep happier because they were out of my mind already, and I was less stressed. And journaling also helps with processing negative emotions or traumatic events. And in Armenia, we experienced a war last year. It was the first war I experienced, and I could see the turmoil happening around with the people around me, the feelings that they had, sadness, anger, and my Armenian friends were losing friends and family on the front lines, on the border. And I even lost a classmate who was doing his military draft, and he was younger than me, and I felt crushed that he was already gone. And I took all of those feelings that I couldn't explain, the feelings I was burdened with, and put them in my journal. And I wrote about them and even cried while writing them. But when I was finished with it, I felt better. And I wasn't so burdened by those negative feelings anymore. And I was glad the journal was there, like a friend to help me go through the things I was experiencing. And if you want to take your stories a level higher than just keeping it in your journal, if you're done with okay, I'm done with keeping my stories here, and you want to go out there and share your stories to other people, then you can start blogging like I did. And when you share your experiences with others, they will get to understand your perspective and they can accept you more. And they will also learn from the different or unique things that you're experiencing. Just like with my Nepal earthquake blog, more people got to read about what was happening there, and they were more aware of what we experience, and maybe it even encouraged them to send help to the country. And I know that maybe some of you are saying that it's good that you're journaling and blogging and you have a passion for writing, but honestly, I'm too lazy to write, or I have another reason that prevents me from writing. Then there are some alternatives that you can take, like drawing or vlogging, or even taking pictures. I remember my uncle who would take a picture every day of something he was grateful for, and he would post them with the hashtag 365 days of gratitude. And besides that, you can also record voice memos. I've been watching this show where the main character has dyslexia. So instead of writing his journal entries down, he would record voice memos. And I even followed his example a couple of days ago and recorded for like 20 minutes, and it was easier than writing because my thoughts were instantaneously on the record, so it was fun. So if you really want to save your memories, then you'll find a way. After all, if there's a will, there's a way. And I know you can do it because we're all born storytellers. And Vladimir Nabokov once said that a good writer can fulfill or should fulfill 3 roles. The first one is storyteller, which I've mentioned. We can all do that. And the second is to be a teacher. And the third is to be an enchanter. And I think I've taught people through my blogs and made them more aware of what was happening on my side of the world, or even just a simple how-to article. I've been able to do that. And then with being an enchanter, well, the experiences that I had were unique, and I think people thought they were, oh, it's so exotic, I want to know more. So they were able to jump into my world. I was able to entice them through the way that I told the story. And I think being able to fulfill those roles of a good writer, though I'm not a master writer yet, is the reason why people have resonated or related to my stories. And in that process, I was able to understand that writing and words do have power, even in the hands of a young, inexperienced, and ordinary person like me. And that empowered me to keep on writing. And I hope that by following my example or just taking inspiration from my stories, I hope you will be able to experience the power of writing for yourself. Thank you.